Good morning and welcome to Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. In medieval times, religion had a hold too potent, and the rurals were basically also the promoters of their religion. And we have seen that in Europe, that wherever the imperialist power went, Portuguese, Spanish, French, British, they promoted Christianity. Same happened in Islam. Wherever they went, the first job was to convert the non believers to Islam. But there was one rule, and in medieval times, not very long back, who was able to be even handed. There's a historic building in Lahore. It was built in 1753, era of decline of Mughal Empire, half a century back. Emperor Aurangzeb had died. But the Sikhs had still not come in power. It was a state of flux all over. And at that time, a building, a mosque was built. This mosque is a curiously shaped bulbous dome coated with real gold leaf, and the architecture is a mix of the local traditions. As it has no definite architectural style to label it, most of the architects experts do not approve of it, but others find it a reflection of Lahore's open and liberal conditions. It resembles Amritsar's Golden Temple, and people have been calling it Lahore's Golden Temple, but most of them call it Sunehri Masjid, the Golden Mosque. It is in the corner of a junction where Kasera Bazaar meets Kacha Chakswaran, just off the Kashmiri Bazaar. And there are stories associated with it, as I told you. When it was built, its construction was opposed, curiously, by both the local traders and the mullahs. Now, you would be amazed that the mullahs opposing the construction of a mosque is a paradox. What had really happened was that the traders opposed it because it would allegedly harm their profits by congesting the already congested market. The mullahs opposed it because the traders threatened to cut off their funding if they supported the project. So it was the time of Mir Mannu, who had put the price on the heads of the Sikhs. And there was a popular saying that Mannu is a sickle, and we are the soya crop. The more he kills us, the more we grow. Now, at the time of that, the deputy governor of Lahore was Nawab Bukhari Khan, and he was building this mosque. So Nawab Bukhari met the traders and promised them that they would not be asked to pay donation for the mosque. This is the only mosque which has shops on the ground floor, and the rent of the shops pays for the maintenance of the mosque. As the plot of the land is a small one, the mosque did not hinder the work of traders. Rather, it added to the demand level because there are more people coming as customers. So the traders were satisfied. And the mullahs who were opposing it issued a fatwa stating that the building of mosque was an Islamic act and needed. In return, they promised to continue financing the mullahs. So it was 1753 that the beautiful mosque was completed. And then, hardly 12 years passed and the control of Lahore shifted from Muslims to Sikhs. The three Sikh leaders, Gujjar Singh, Sobha Singh, Lena Singh, they belong to Bhangi Misl, one of the 12 parts of Sikhism. And on 12th of April 1765, they conquered Lahore and the Sikh era started. Now, imagine Ranjit Singh was not the starter of the Sikh Raj, of the Khalsa Raj. It was Bhangi Misl who started it. Amazingly, the people who helped overthrow these three and enabled Ranjit Singh to become the ruler were again the traders. They assisted Ranjit Singh to take the control of city of Lahore. And it was in 1799. But one thing definitely happened, that the coming of these three brought peace to the Afghan looting of Lahore, and the people heaved a sigh of relief. Ranjit Singh was a very powerful king, we know that. He is almost an icon, and history shows that at one time Tsar from Russia sent him a message to have a treaty of friendship so that the British trade rulers could be overthrown. Napoleon from France sent him a message through General Ventura, who was commander of Ranjit Singh, telling him that they can join hands and Ranjit Singh can rule the whole of India. But Ranjit Singh did not agree. Anyway, so 1799 Ranjit Singh became the king of Punjab, particularly Lahore, and then he started expanding. After a few years, it was a very powerful kingdom. European, Asian, all were looking to him. And then, at this time, a Sikh priest, Granthi, got greedy. So he took some soldiers with him and took over the mosque. Imagine, at that time, nobody could believe that once Sikhs had taken over, the Muslims would be able to get the mosque back. But Ranjit Singh was the ruler not of Sikhs, he was the ruler of Punjab. And he thought that the Muslims, the Hindus, whatever the religion may be, has nothing to do as far as justice is concerned. So, when the Muslims saw that their Sunahari masjid has been taken over, they complained to Ranjit Singh that first was the complaint by Sikhs. They were saying that Azan, the call for prayer, is making their life difficult. Hindus and Sikhs living in that area were very unhappy, with the result that they requested that this takeover should be permitted by Maharaja. And Maharaja allowed them the control of mosque. But he gave a condition that it shall be turned into a Gurdwara. So in the middle of the mosque, a copy of Guru Granth was placed. And for all practical purposes, it became a Gurdwara. They also gave it a new name. It was Chota Sunari Gurdwara. So for a few years, this practice continued. Then Muslims thought that Ranjit Singh is otherwise very honest and very fair. So they approached Fakir Azizuddin, who was the minister of Ranjit Singh, and told him that this is an injustice to the Muslims. So mosque should be returned to Sikhs. So the Fakir Azizuddin, he went to Ranjit Singh and told him that this is not desirable. Ranjit Singh was in a dilemma. He had himself told that convert into Gurdwara. Now, how could he convert or reconvert Gurdwara into a mosque? But at the same time, his conscience was telling him that what has been done is wrong. A mosque is a mosque. To convert it into a Gurdwara has been a sin. That's what he felt. But he also knew that in case he shifts the Gurdwara back to mosque, the Sikhs will turn against him. And who knows, the Sikh generals like Akali Phula Singh, who were very fundamentalist, they might even revolt. He could not dislocate and fracture his support staff. So he thought of a solution. This shows the capability of that man. They were summoned by the Maharaja to his fort, and Maharaja told them, look here, for me, all of you are equal. I respect all religions. I told it's a Gurdwara, so it's a Gurdwara. But then the Muslims have to be informed that the time of prayer has come. We cannot let them rot and go to hell. So it's a responsibility and the religious duty of the Sikhs of that area that they should get up early in the morning and go to each house of Muslim in that area, inform them there's a time for prayer, and do it 5 times a day. Strict orders were that in case it's not done, the responsible Sikhs would be punished. The Sikhs said, okay, we'll do it. But within a fortnight, they could not do it. They could not sleep because they were thinking all the time we should not be late for the morning prayer. Then there are 5 times they have to go every time. And all their business was coming to a stop. So they came to Ranjit Singh back and told him that they could not carry it out. First, they were supposed to call the azan at a very low volume. They could not shout because others should not be disturbed. They had to go from house to house. Secondly, they were to go 5 times. So they said, we have no objection. Let's convert it back into a mosque. So the mosque was returned to the Muslims. But then 2 conditions were laid out. First, that the azan, when it is made, the call for prayer, it should be in a very low volume so that the Hindus and the Sikhs are not disturbed. And then the rent from the shops would not go to the mosque, it will come to the government. Interestingly, can you believe it? Muslims allowed the Sikhs to use a portion of mosque as a gurdwara. This was the real secularism. A mosque converted into a gurdwara and the rural reconverting it into a mosque. And the Muslims being large at and say, look here, since the Guru Granth has been there, we would allow the Sikhs to use the mosque as a gurdwara. There's something, let me tell you, the beautiful mosque has pillars and they end in a lotus configuration. So it's a Hindu Sikh architecture. Domes are more bulbous with the plant formation. Traditionalists don't like the design. But then the masjid itself is a symbol of, shall I say, an integration of the three religions. And by the time the upheavals that followed the death of Ranjit Singh and East India Company coming into power, the mosque fell into disrepair. Later on, the British under General MacLeod carried out repair work. And in 2011, the US ambassador to Pakistan visited this mosque and gave a special fund from USA $35,000 so that the four pillars, the symbol of religious peace and architecture, could be repaired. Interestingly, nearby the mosque built by Wazir Khan is another area that there should be further improvement. A lot of work has to be done, but then that's another thing. I wanted to show how the Indian rulers who have not been given their due status, like Ranjit Singh, like Ashok, like Harshvardhan, they were extremely religious by themselves. Akbar, absolutely they were religious, but they were not dogmatic. And the statecraft was a finely honed attribute of these rulers. Imagine in the same situation in the Middle East, the king could have simply as said, cut off his head, and all the people who had complained that the mosque has been converted to Gurdwara would have been killed. But no, Ranjit Singh very diplomatically ensured the transfer, the reconversion, and also ensured peace and fraternal affection in the two communities. That was the hallmark of Ranjit Singh. Friends, this is the first tale I'm telling you that of human capability that builds the bridge. And this Saturday special would continue next week with another tale that connects the human beings as one. Thank you.